Hello coin collectors out there. Welcome back to the Big D Coins channel. Hopefully everyone is having a great day as always. In today's video we are going to focus in on this coin at the top right here, the 1942 wheat penny. And I am really excited to make this video. I've got a bunch of different resources out that I'll quickly share with you. So if we look to my left right here, this is what's known as the Red Book. The Red Book lists the year the coin was made right here, as well as the mintage and the value going across the top right here. Those are the different grades. So we're going to look at some G4s. Those will be helpful. We can see that they're worth around 15 cents. Behind it, I've got the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die and Variety Coins, turned to the page about the 1941 wheat penny. And then on my screen right here, I've got an explanation of the coin grading system by NGC, and I'm also going to flip to this right here, which this is the PCGS price guide. So if you Google PCGS price guide, it will show you all of the recent auction results. Now that's pretty helpful to kind of see the high end of the coin values. If you're looking for kind of the lower end of the coin values, you're going to want to look at the Red Book price guide, which I'll be sharing with you some information on that on today's video. The PCGS price guide is helpful for the higher end coins because people only submit their coins to be graded by that coin grading agency if they're going to grade rather highly, because it costs around 20 or 30 bucks. I know some people do get some volume discounts, but if you're just submitting one coin, it would be pretty expensive. So you need it to be worth a lot of money to do that. All right, so we've got the 1942 wheat penny. Haven't even talked about these ones right here. 1942 is also a fun year to talk about because that was the first year we had what's known as the Wartime Nickels, which I'm pointing to right here. So in the year 1942, the United States Mint actually made regular nickels made out of the copper nickel clad, and these wartime nickels right here, which actually have some silver in them. So we'll get into the silver content of these coins. They're 35% silver, but we'll get into more details of that later in the video. And we've also got these coins, which we'll talk about in the video as well. So since we're talking about 1942, we'll talk about 1943 as well. 1943 is known for being the steel cent. So these coins right here, you're seeing it correctly. You don't need to adjust the color on your screen. These are not made out of copper. These are made out of steel with a slight zinc coating to them. So they're very cool coins we'll talk about. And of course, we've got a foreign coin showcase. It's a stacked video that I was talking about. And in today's foreign coin showcase, we'll share with you these UK 1 penny coins. Around the same era, we've got a 1946. We've got a 1938, rather shiny, kind of interesting finish to it. We've got a 1944. We've got a 1863. Check it out. That's going to have a different obverse to it. And we've got a 1919 UK 1 penny. So at the end of the video, we'll get into the mintages and the designs of those cool UK pennies. I know a lot of you have been enjoying the foreign coin showcase at the end of the video, so we're going to keep it going with those UK 1 pennies. Let me spread these out so we can fill up the screen. We've got 1942, 1942, 1942, and very nicely we have a Denver Mint 1942 at the top right here. This is helpful because when you look up the value of your coin, it's going to be different depending on what mint it came out of. Let me center these for you. So we've got the D mint mark right there. The mintages for the 1942 wheat penny, there were 657 million that were made at the Philadelphia Mint. The Philadelphia Mint doesn't have a mint mark on it except for the year 2017. 2017 pennies will have a P on them. All other pennies will not have, all other pennies made at the Philadelphia Mint will not have a mint mark on them. That's because the Philadelphia Mint was the first mint, so they didn't need a mint mark when they first started making them there. So 657 million made at the Philadelphia Mint, 206 million made at the Denver Mint, which will have that mint mark to them, 85 million made at the San Francisco Mint. The San Francisco Mint is going to be the most rare of that 1942 year. In case you haven't seen what these reverse will look like, let me flip over a couple of them so we can get the obverse look and the reverse look. The Red Book price guide for these 1942 pennies at a G4. Now keep in mind that the price, the number scale goes all the way up to 70. So a G4 is not going to be very highly graded. Those are going to be worth 15 cents, 15 cents, and 20 cents at the G4. Once you get up into the Mint State 60, those will be worth $1, $1, and then $7. So $1 for Philadelphia, $1 for Denver, and then $7 for the San Francisco Mint 1942 pennies that are graded a Mint State 60. So that's a 60 out of 70. There are some notable errors, though, which can fetch you a lot more money. I'm on the PCGS site right now. They don't have any listed errors for they do not have any listed errors for 1942, but the Cherry Pickers Guide has quite a few. The Cherry Pickers Guide lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They list 8 different errors. I'm going to move some of these aside so we can talk about those different errors associated with the 1942. So the first 4 that they list in the Cherry Pickers Guide are all doubled die obverses. So that means when the die of the coin, for the coin struck the blank planchet, it struck it twice. So it might have bounced, it might have skipped, but it created a doubling. So you can see that in a couple of different places on the 1942. If you happen to have one of those doubled die obverses, you can see that on the eye, on his eye itself right there. You can see it on the Liberty right there. Check out that. Check out the one of the date. Now there's also some repunched mint marks associated with 1942. Now the mint mark are struck separately from the die. So you can see this is a good example right here. It's the only one I have with a mint mark in front of you. So we see this 1942 Liberty, In God We Trust, and Abraham Lincoln. That's all part of the same die. The D comes separately. So that gets struck separately from everything else that you see right here. At least for when they are making these. More recently, they added the mint mark to the die, but way back in 1942, it was separately. So a repunched mint mark, that's also abbreviated RPM, RPM, repunched mint mark. That exists sometimes. So with 1942, there's a Denver Mint repunched mint mark, which is valued at a Mint State 65 at $35. There's another one valued at $35, and there's a 1942 San Francisco Mint repunched mint mark that's valued at $300. There's also a triple repunched mint mark with the San Francisco 1942, which is valued at $150 in a Mint State 65 condition. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the 1942 S's. They are a little bit more rare than the Denver Mint and the Philadelphia Mint, as we were discussing earlier. So check out the mint mark right there in case there might be any repunched mint marks. Look around it and see if there are any major indentations, which might indicate that it was stamped twice with the mint mark on it. All right, that's all the info I've got for you for 1942, but don't go anywhere because we still have these 1943s to talk about, these 1942 nickels to talk about in the foreign coin showcase. So I'm going to move the steel pennies aside, and we'll get into these ones right here. Now, this is a complete set of the 1942 wartime nickels. You might be wondering, why isn't there a Denver Mint for 1942? Because there actually wasn't any Denver Mints that were made for the 1942 wartime nickels. There are 11 nickels that are are part of the Wartime Nickel set. There's the 1942 P and S. Just bump the camera. 1942 P and S, which I've got right here. There's the 1943 PD&S, 44 PD&S, and 45 PD&S. So we will not find a Denver Mint 1942 Wartime Nickel. Let me share with you the silver content in these coins right here. So these are 35% silver, 56% copper, and 9% manganese. The manganese is what gives the Sacagawea golden dollars their golden color to it. The total weight of these coins is 5 grams. And in World War II, it prompted the rationing of many commodities. Nickel was a highly valued for their use in armor plating, and Congress ordered that the removal of this metal from the 5-cent piece, effective October 8, 1942. So that's why there will be a split. Some of them are made out of the nickel. Some of them are made out of the silver, copper, manganese combination like you see right here. It was anticipated that these emergency coins would be withdrawn from circulation after the war. So that's why we have these large mint marks on the reverse side of the coin. This would be so that these coins could be easily identified and then taken out of circulation. However, lucky for us, they didn't pull these out of circulation, and then they kept circulating. So the melt value of these coins, so we're using today's silver prices, assuming 35% silver, that gives them a melt value of 98 cents. Now, I wouldn't recommend going out there and melting these because these are very cool coins. But if you had to for some reason and you want to extract some junk silver out of them, you could get 98 cents worth of silver out of these coins, which are just worth 5 cents each. So quite a nice return on your investment there. A lot of people do look for these while coin roll hunting. So they'll go to their bank, get a full box of nickels, and then just plow through the nickels and try and find some of these. I've been pretty successful with that, but it is time consuming. So you've got to have a lot of time to go through all of the nickels and then return the nickels to the bank. All right, we've got the 1942 pennies, and now let's bring in these ones right here. We've got the 1943 steel cents to talk about, and then we'll get into those UK 1 pennies. So have you ever seen coins that look like this? Now, these aren't your standard copper nickel clad coins. These are what's known as the steel pennies. Let me pull up some information for you about that. So nickel, the 1943 penny. So is your 1943 penny rare? Well, it depends. If you've got one that looks like this, unfortunately, it's not going to be too rare, but we'll talk about one rare era coin associated with this. I've got the mintages up now. So the 1943 Philadelphia, which will be this coin, and this coin as well. So these don't have a mint mark on them, so that means that they're from Philadelphia. There were 84 million of these that were made. The 1943D, which is this one right here, there were 217 million of these that were made. In the 1943S, there were actually 191 million of them that were made. So these 1943 Philadelphia mints are actually the more rare of the mint mark coins, which is pretty cool. I live closer to the Philadelphia mint than any of the other mints, so most of my coins are from the Philadelphia mint. Now, for the price associated with these, looking at the Red Book price, for a F12, so 12 out of 70, these are going to be worth 30 cents each. Once you get up into the mint state 65, those are going to be worth $8 each. So these can be worth a lot of money. Now, there are some super rare. One of the most rare coins out there is the 1943 penny that's actually made out of copper. So if you're looking at your 1943 pennies and they look a lot more like this, but they've got the 1943 date on them, you've actually got an era coin in front of you that could be worth up to $10,000. Now, be very wary though. Some people do take a coin like this and then try and alter the date on it and change that into a 3. So to look like that, and then kind of forge it into looking like a 3 and then try and pass that off as authentic. Now, a coin grading agency, a notable one like PCGS and NGC, would be able to spot that, but you or I or someone buying coins online wouldn't be able to see that. So keep your eye out for just, don't spend a ton of money and fool yourself and get a fake 1943 copper penny thinking that you've just hit the jackpot right there. All right, let's share with you a little bit more information on these coins right here. Now, as far as the metal content for the regular coins, the metal content is 75% copper, 25% nickel, but these ones right here are going to be made out of steel, but have a very small coating to them that shows that's made out of zinc. So the zinc protects the coin and prevents it from rusting. Some of the more worn out coins, you can actually see the rust showing on them. If you flip this one over to the side, you can see it a little bit more, but you can see that the rust, the coin is actually wearing out a little bit. So that's why, part of the reason why they don't make these anymore is because they rust, and no one wants any rusty coins. All right, everyone. Now let's quickly recap the U.S. coins we looked at. So we looked at the 1942 United States wheat penny. We looked at the 1943 steel penny. And then we looked at the 1942 silver wartime nickels. And now for the foreign coin showcase. Let's bring them out and look at these coins right here. Gotta make sure, I'm gonna flip them over so we can see the dates, because that's the most important part of them. So let me line out these ones that are all from the same era. We've got a 1938, a 1944, and a 1946. Now, the 1938, it's got a very interesting coloring to it. I'm not sure what the situation or why this one's kind of more sparkly than these two right here. So what you're looking at is the 1 penny coin. This is the 1 penny coin, which features George the 6th on the obverse. I'll flip one of these over so we can see George the 6th on the obverse. Now, going around the outside of the coin right here, we see George the 6th, by the grace of God, of all of the Bretons, defender of faith, emperor of India. So we see that going around right here all the way around. So that translates to George the 6th, by the grace of God, king of all Bretonians, defender of the faith, emperor of India. We can see there's quite India. We can see there's quite a lot of abbreviations right here. Obviously, in the more recent coins, the Emperor of India portion of the obverse right here gets dropped because the UK is no longer ruling over India. The value of these coins are worth 1 penny, which translates to 1/12 of a shilling. These coins were made prior to the decimalization of their coin system in 1971. So to translate, you've got to go from like 1/12 to 1/240th and all these kind of hard calculations to make rather than just moving over the decimal point. Now, what you see on the reverse side right here, you see a seated figure of Britannia to the right with the trident in the left hand and a shield bearing the Union flag in the right hand. Now, if your coin's in better shape like this one right here, you can actually make out the Union flag on the shield. If your coin's in more worn out condition like up here, that is going to not work out as well for you, and you can't see the Union flag on that. As far as the mintages for these coins go, they're going to be rather high. Let's talk about the years that I've got. In 1938, there are 121 million of these ones that were made. In 1944, there are 42 million of these ones that were made. And then in 1946, there were 66 million of these ones down here that were made in 1946. This series was made from 1937 up until 1948. The highest mintage year in that series is going to be 1938, which is the one I've got right here. And I said 121 million were made in 1938. Let's put a little side by side right here. These two from 1946 to 1919 don't look too different on the reverse side of the coin. But when you flip it over, you get a different obverse side to the coin. So this one right here, as we were talking about, has George VI on it. When we go to this one right here on the right, this has George V. So this is George's father right here. So George VI, George V. Now this George V coin is a standard coin, which was made from 1911 until 1926. The year that I've got is 1919. And in 1919, there were 113 million of these coins that were made. Again, this was made from 1911 up until 1922. The highest mintage year is going to be 1921, in which there are 129 million of them that were made. All right, and on to our final coin in today's video. It's been quite a long video, so thanks for sticking around if you're still watching at this point. We've got George VI, George V, and then on the final coin right here, extremely worn out, but you can see by looking at that, that's not George that we see on the obverse of the coin. This is actually Victoria. This is the second portrait of Queen Victoria. She's facing the left. Now going around the outside, there is some lettering to it, which translates to Victoria, by the grace of God, Queen of Bretonians, Defender of Faith. This coin was made from 1860 up until 1874. The year I've got is 1863. And in 1863, there are 28 million of these that were made. So mintages are rather low. They're less than 100 million. But as you can see, my coin is so worn out right here. This is probably like a 2 out of 70. This is about as rough shape as you can get. Totally smoothed out on the obverse. We've got some chipping on the ridge, on the rim of the coin, and then the reverse side of the coin is really worn out as well. All right, everyone, very long video for you today. If you're still sticking around to this point, thank you very much. I appreciate that you have stuck around and watched to the very end of this very long video, but if it gets good views and people did indeed stick around, maybe I'll make some longer videos. Thank you very much, everyone, and best of luck coin collecting out there. Enjoy.